Welcome to Northeastern Alabama Sports Live. I am your host, Mark Everett Kelly. Today we have Chris Elmore, the head coach of the Fort Payne Wildcats, who has won 9 straight regular season games as they prepare for their game against Guntersville here in week 2 of the 2025 football season. I'd like to thank our sponsors. First, we got Miles Smith over at the Cattle Stampede. Miles, a great guy. If you mention my name, Mark Everett Kelly, you get 10% off of your meal, a great buffet. They got everything you could want to eat and everything your family would like. And our second sponsor is Bobby Ledbetter's Twin City Auto Sales. Bobby's a great guy. He gives everyone deals, and he's just so kind. And him and Miles both do so much for the community, and it's such an honor to have them as sponsors. You mentioned my name, Mark Everett Kelly. You get $500 off of your next car deal. And also up there in Canada, we got the Fired Up Network. I know the Buffalo Bills start next week, and boy, hopefully they'll be able to take care of you this year up there. My buddy up there in Canada. Um, so next, when we come back, we got Chris Elmore of the Fort Payne Wildcats, the red hot Fort Payne Wildcats, as they prepare for week 2 against Guntersville. Kelly here with Northeast Alabama Sports Live. We got Coach Chris Elmore here of the Fort Payne Wildcats. Now, Fort Payne has played really well just the last couple of years. I know after we starting 0-2 last year, they've seemed to be really turn around and seem to learn like how to win, and that's really hard once in high school football especially, and then as being a coach. What are some of the things you've seen? You guys have won 9 straight regular season games. You had another great come from behind win in week 1 against Scottsboro that you got back the Top Cat Trophy back. What have you seen?
Well, I think it just goes back to just our coaches. We've got really good coaches. I've been very fortunate since I've been here about having good assistant coaches that don't just come to practice and stand around and let me do it all. That they're out there coaching too, and they take pride in their position groups. And I feel like every one of our position groups is like its own little small team, and every one of our coaches does a good job leading that group. And they obviously, kind of follow my direction, so to speak. But it's really them and the players buying into, what we're trying to do and realizing that, it's not just one guy, it's not just one side of the ball or just one position group. It's going to take everybody every single night, and different groups get the recognition different nights depending on what happens. But our coaches do a great job of just preparing our players, and then our players, Fort Payne's just a great place. It really doesn't matter what it is at Fort Payne. The athletes here are receptive to coaching. They want to be coached. They enjoy being coached, and they try to go out and apply what you've asked them to do throughout the week. And when you do that, you at least got a chance. That's kind of what we say. Just if we'll do that every Friday night, we've got an opportunity, and then you got to get a few breaks along the ways, and we've gotten a few here in the last couple of years. But I also think that goes back to just the hard work from our athletes and our coaches too.
Yeah, you mentioned something about the coaches, make the players wanting to be coached,
Mm-hmm.
and I mean that goes a long way, especially in high school sports. The ability to learn. I mean, you see it all with the generation, of kids coming up. Maybe they're not as willing, or what does he know, or and there's so much of that in society today. But when I tell people all the time, your community is kind of all you have,
Yeah.
and there you get to set the kind of a standard of what it is,
Yeah.
and definitely here a standard now of winning and of expecting to win is there. How much does that go along with the success you're having, or just trying, now that you guys are winning, to sell your kids on some of that stuff?
Yeah, I think I think tradition matters, and I think when you win some games, Fort Payne was winning football games long before I got here, and that's evident by the fact that this was our 600th win this year, this
Yep.
week as a program. So it's not anything that I've done special. It's just, and I think I said that when I got here. I said the tradition continues. Is one of the things I said in the first month or so on the job, and it's not anything I'm doing or maybe anything necessarily that anybody specific on our team is doing. It's just kind of what's expected, and kids kind of grow up here. And again, it really doesn't matter what sport. I mean, you go watch any of our teams play, all the way across our athletic programs. It's the same thing. It's kind of rinse and repeat. It's good young people that are trying to do the best they can do, whether it's boys, sports, girls sports, it doesn't matter. and we've got good coaches in our system that are trying to help them and develop them and make them play the best they can play in their sport. And that's not the way it is everywhere, as we all know. There's some schools that's not the way it is, and you do have a little bit of that entitlement or that coach doesn't know what he's talking about or whatever. But that's just not the case here, and we've got athletes that try to improve and try to get better at what they do. And at the end of the day, that's all you really can do, right? Is just try to improve each and every day. And if you do that, you're gonna win more than you lose, hopefully.
I think that's something I've seen just as a reporter. The respect generally that the kids have for me, that they have for adults, that they have for people kind of in charge, I think is really inspirational to me. I know it's so much easier for me to deal with them after the game or asking simple things.
Sure.
Goes a long way. Couple guys, Blake Griggs, I know, playing first year as quarterback, taking over for a very good quarterback in Dax. And then you had Carter Blaylock, who had a great game the other night with 2 touchdowns. Adams, another great running back. You got some older people now. Riker Shankles at wide receiver. Talk about what those kids kind of have learned in their years.
Yeah, and I think they're all great examples of what we just talked about. All they've really done since we've known them in the 7th grade is just keep showing up every day and keep trying to listen to what's going on, whether it be in the weight room or on the football field. Or a lot of these guys play. Several of those guys you mentioned play multiple sports. Shankles and Griggs play baseball, and Blaylock's a wrestler, and so it kind of carries over through all that. But I thought Griggs, tough assignment to follow a guy like Dax. I mean, hard to follow a guy that's as accomplished as Dax was. But we knew when Blake was in the 7th and 8th grade that he was going to be a good quarterback. But we also knew that he was a year behind also a really good quarterback. So we had a conversation early on in his career about do you want to just keep working at quarterback and try to beat Dax out and kind of play backup for a couple of years, or do you want to get on the field? And his answer was immediate as a 10th grader. I want to play. I don't want to watch. I want to play. And so he learned to play receiver. Maybe not necessarily his natural position, but learned to play it and played it really well. And then he had a little bit of a transition, I thought, this year in fall camp, having to get back into kind of the quarterback mode because you hadn't done it in 2 years in a live game. He played as a 9th grader for us and had a lot of played great that year as our JV quarterback as a 9th grader. And then so he had to transition back to that this year, and it took him a little time there in fall camp, but he's settling in his zone. And somebody said something to me about it. He didn't play very well tonight, and he missed his first 2 throws, and after that he was 8 of 9.
Sure.
So I mean, if 8 of 9 is not playing good, then I'll take it. We didn't protect a couple things early for him, but I thought he had a big drive there at the end to lead us down and get us the lead. And then Blaylock is Carter's just our guy that every team needs an attitude guy, and Carter's our attitude guy. And we did not have him last year, the first really 4 ball games. And when we got him back, it changed our mindset. And it's not anything he says or it's not how he acts. It's just how he plays. And it's contagious. And when he plays the way he plays and runs as hard as he runs, I think everybody else just feeds off that. And he did that again Friday night. And it didn't matter if it was a 1-yard run or a 45-yard run. He ran it the same way. And that's what you got to have out of running backs. And Caden Adams is starting to get a little bit of that the same way. They both run about the same way. And they both had 2 long runs and were big plays in the game. And then Riker Shankles just continues to be Riker Shankles. I don't know that I've ever coached one quite like him because he's so cerebral. There's things we'll talk about throughout the week at practice. And Coach, what about on this? Now you think I could maybe break back in or break back out? Or he'll have different ideas. And most of the time I'll tell him, you do you, and I'll figure out the rest. And he just understands how to get open and where he needs to be on every play. And he's just got a lot of, just for lack of a better term, he's got a lot of backyard football in him. He just understands that, hey, they're there, so why would I go there? They're covering me there. I'm going to go here. And just does a really good job running routes and getting open. And he makes play after play after play. And we've enjoyed watching it the last 2 years, and hopefully we'll watch it all this year too.
You mentioned Blake in that last series when you guys were down. It was a 17-14, and then he came in. I believe it was 3 for 3, 12-yard reception, 29-yard reception to Shankles, and then Jaden Jackson, I believe, had a 12-yard reception. You mentioned Caden Adams had a 43-yard touchdown run. Carter Blaylock, 37-yard touchdown run, along with this touchdown run on the final drive there. But you've had a recipe last couple of games, especially the last couple of playoff games. Get behind. make big defensive plays in the fourth quarter,
Yeah.
and then make that game-winning drive. And then even after you score the touchdown, getting that defensive stop. Now,
Mhm.
talk about that a little, where you had a little bit of a setback with a penalty
Mhm.
that the game should have been over, but
Yeah.
what was that about?
Yeah, so you're right. The last, really three, I guess, games in this stadium were the two playoff games, and then Friday night have all been very similar in that we've been back and forth games, and we've been behind, but found a way to win the fourth quarter. And we don't necessarily like doing it that way. It makes
Mm-hmm.
it entertaining for the fans, but it's not very. It's pretty stressful on me, but it shows how much resilience our kids got. But great stop by our defense there in the fourth quarter after we took the lead, got the ball back with a minute 25, and they only had one timeout. So in our mind, the game was over. Three what we call victory plays would end it. Unfortunately, I did I maybe did a good job and a bad job at the same time. I really challenged our kids on the emotion of this game. I thought we kind of got bullied last year at their place, and we never really responded, and that was my fault. And I just kind of challenged them this year that we're not going to be intimidated, we're not going to be pushed around, and we're going to match their energy. And we did all night, which resulted in some, pushing and shoving after plays, which is not what you want to see. But at the same time, we wanted our guys to stand up for themselves and not be pushed around. And I think our emotions got the best of us there at the end. So when we took a knee there on second down, that should have been the game. But unfortunately, we got a little too emotional there and got a penalty, which unfortunately basically gives them another timeout. They get a chance to stop the clock and still had their timeout left. So now instead of running up the clock, we've got to run another play and weren't able to get a first down. And plus, obviously, after the penalty, it's 3rd and 30. And then it got real chaotic after that. But just what a great play by Hayden Chambers. Anybody that saw us play last year against Gunnersville remembers similar situation. Snap it over his head late in the game. He kind of panics. He falls it on the 2-yard line. I didn't prepare him well for that situation. They score. End up going on to win the game. Same thing happens Friday night. He doesn't panic. He remembers what happened last year. Picks up the ball, runs out the end zone for safety, and then hits a punt that'll probably be talked about for a long time around here, because we talked about a few weeks ago on free kicks. If we have a safety, do we kick off or punt? And Hayden said, I think I can punt it just as far and much higher. I said, well, let's do that then. And he delivered. He hit one that was I think it was about 68 in the air, and just like it was up over the lights, and obviously hard to field. And that, if they catch that, let's say they have a good return there and get the ball back to around midfield, they've got one play to make a throw down there and get field goal range. But when he punted in the end zone, that essentially ended the game, because now they've only got really one play to go 80 yards, and we felt pretty confident we could stop that. But yeah, it was a chaotic final 25 seconds for sure, but it was probably entertaining for the fans, I guess.
And I remember seeing him kick last year. He's almost like Ray Guy. He was a Hall of Fame puncher. Ball goes back 50 yards in the air, and it almost looks like the ball didn't have any air in it. I mean, he just got such a strong leg. But yeah, now you mentioned Gunnersville. You play this week. Talk about what you've learned as a coach, like when to go for it, when to take risks. How have you grown in that way?
I don't know, that's a good question. I don't know if I know the answer. Just kind of, I guess it's a gut feeling a lot of times. We try to study things and watch film, obviously, but you just kind of, I'm not an analytics guy. I know there's a lot of guys that are analytics guys. I feel like if we can get it, we're gonna go for it. I feel like if we're not gonna be able to get, I don't feel confident about the down distance, then we're not gonna try it. But most of the time, I believe in our kids and believe in what they're gonna be able to execute. But if it's ever a situation where I don't feel confident in what's going on, then we'll normally punt or kick a field goal, or whatever the case may be. But I don't know. I think that's, sometimes I make good decisions, sometimes I make bad ones, and you just got to live with it whichever way it goes. And there's been a bunch of games over the years where I've second guessed myself a lot, and there'll probably be many more to come that I'll second guess. It's just something you got to do and make the best decision you think, and hopefully it works out. If it doesn't, at least you did what you thought was right for your team, and that's all we try to do each and every week, for sure.
And how much do you think the players feed off that? Like, hey, coach believes in me. Like this.
Yeah, I think it's a big deal. I think they wanna go for it. Obviously, high school kids are, they never want to punt. They never want to settle for something. And so they were excited when we got the ball inside the 7 there with about 5 minutes to go, and there happened to be a heat timeout, and I said, okay, this is what we've been waiting for. We're going to get a chance to get in our short yardage offense and be physical and tough, and stick the thing in the end zone. And they were excited about it. They were ready for the challenge. They knew that they had 3 downs to get 6 yards, and we did it in 2. And they were excited about that opportunity. And so, when kids believe in what we're doing and believe in each other, then you feel like you're in a good spot, and that's where we are most of the time. And it may not always work out our way, but we know our kids are going to believe in each other when they try to do it.
Hey, Coach Chris Elmore here. Great talking to you, Coach. Thank you for your time. Fort Payne at Garnersville on Friday. Check them out. Thank you for joining us here on Northeastern Alabama Sports Live. I am your host, Mark Everett Kelly. Really special thanks to Coach Chris Elmore of Fort Payne. Once again, we'd like to thank our sponsors, Miles Smith over at the Cattle Stampede. You mention my name and get 10% off of your next meal. He gives a great buffet over there, a great family price. And Bobby Ledbetter's Twin City Auto Sales. He's got locations in Gadsden and Fort Payne. If you mention Northeastern Alabama Sports Live or my name, Mark Everett Kelly, you get $500 off of your next deal for a car. Thank you once again for joining us here at Eastern Alabama Sports Live. I am your host, Mark Everett Kelly. We will see you next time.